You often hear the talk about pre-listing inspections and how a lot of people don't like to do them because they really don't want to know what's wrong with their house. However, I'm a big proponent of pre-listing inspections. I feel like it lets the seller be more proactive, it decreases their liability, and it lets both the seller and the buyer get to the closing table a lot faster. So I recently sat down with Andrew Hersey of the Hersey Group, who has been doing pre-listing inspections for almost 2 years now and has seen great success with it. So if you have any questions about pre-listing inspections after this video, please feel free to reach out to myself or Andrew, and we'll be happy to answer any questions. Andrew, thanks for coming on today with me. I'm really excited to talk to you about pre-listing inspections. So I'm going to let you go ahead and introduce yourself and your team and what you do, who you're with, and everything for everybody here on the video.
Yeah, I'm Andrew Hersey. I've been licensed in Cincinnati for 10 years now, a little over 10 years. And so with Five Realty, the Hersey Group, I'm the team lead. It's really just me and my mom. She got licensed in 2021 after she retired. Just needed something to do. She was already helping me out. So got her real estate license. So we kind of have coverage if I'm not fully available. But she does a lot of my back end, more of my admin work than showing houses. So I'm really the face and being out in front of everybody. But my mom is there in the background keeping everything together because without her, it wouldn't be able to work. So that's a little bit about us. And lived in Cincinnati pretty much my whole life. Moved to Dallas for 1 year, and like a good Midwesterner, I moved right back home. So
let's talk about what the pre-listing is versus a post or a buyer's inspection.
So I think it's similar from a perspective of you're getting an idea of, is there anything major wrong with the house? Are there going to be any surprises? So that's where it's for me highly important. Is my number one goal with paying for and offering that as part of my marketing is to take part of the headache or the roller coaster ride out of the transaction. So what we're looking to do with the pre-listing inspection, and it can be a double-edged sword if there is something major. But I'm going to knock on wood. We haven't really run into that. Nothing that can't be fixed, at least relatively easy, a little bit of money, but we would have found it anyways. A buyer would have found that. And now we would have had that high of, we're under contract and everything's great. And then you have the inspection came back and there's a whole bunch of stuff on it. So it kind of takes out that roller coaster and makes it a kiddie ride. I'd rather ride a kiddie ride in the real estate transaction than Diamondback at Kings Island and you're going 65 miles an hour downhill. So, that's for me. It's a little bit different than a full inspection, I think. But for me, it's giving you the same information. I think we take out a lot of the fluff, a lot of the, hey, this is good, this is good, this is good. And we're really looking at this is what needs repaired, or here's the maintenance items, or here's what you can do to, the little things you can do to make sure that the buyer is not going to come back and ask for a million things.
Right. You said like it could be bad because you could find something major, but then you alluded to it could be bad if a buyer comes in and finds something major and they hit the road and they're out of the contract now. Versus like if you find as a seller, you have time to address the issue, take care of it, and then fix it, and then disclose it. And so it kind of almost takes some liability off your seller too.
Yep. Yeah. So we know about it already. We found out about it, whether we repair it or not, or we find out and get a quote and offer that as a, hey, we'll have a check made out to this contractor at closing to get this work done. There's a lot of options there that we have to play with. Again, luckily I haven't had anything super major come up, but it really gives us that peace of mind right up front before we even hit the market.
How do you convince your sellers to do a pre-listing inspection? And is it a non-negotiable for you when you're taking on a listing?
It is not a non-negotiable. It is an option. There are, some houses I'm in. I have one right now that just went under contract, and we started the process in January. We just hit the market last week. I'm $1,800 in on expenses from photos, from video, from photography, drone photography, all of that stuff. Home inspection. We did a staging consult. We did a whole bunch of stuff up front for that one. It's a $1 million listing, but I'm $1,800 in. I don't get paid till the end. If that never closes, I'm out $1,800. But it's just one of those things that I factor in to my game plan. And if explained properly, um, makes sense for every seller to do it. I do it on every listing from 100,000 all the way up to over 1 million. There's no price point that I cut it off and say, oh, well, the home price is going to be too low and I'm not going to do it. No, I want that done so that we know up front what we're getting into. And if it's something where it's very, very bad and I'm not going to be able to sell the house, I can now tell the seller, hey, this needs to be fixed or this house isn't going to sell or we need to price it accordingly.
Right.
So it also gives me a little bit of wiggle and a little bit of power there. Not power, that doesn't sound right, but like talking points on why we price where we price, leverage on where we price, why we price where we price.
Right.
So getting out in front of it is for me huge.
How have you seen your overall business, not maybe not grow, but your transactions actually go through a lot smoother? Have you seen an increase in your business and your revenues with it?
Yeah, so I've actually seen a lot, and it's a little risky sometimes, but I put up, let's see, in December, I put up one in my neighborhood right down the street in Rolling Knolls here in Westchester, put one in my mom's neighborhood up a week later in Westchester on Wells Crossing in White Hill Square in West up here. So both of those, I put a little binder together. It looks pretty. We put a picture of the house, welcome to blah, blah, blah. We put it in, put a nice binder together, and I include the repairs the seller made, the inspection report, and the disclosures, property disclosure and lead-based paint if it's necessary, and any other disclosures that we need to have in there. So I provide that at the house. I also offer to agents that have buyers that are interested to send them a PDF. Some buyers are looking at that and saying, oh, they just did an inspection 3 weeks ago. They fixed everything on the inspection, or there's nothing really there that's major. Or the option number 3, hey, notice she didn't fix these 2 things. We're going to write our offer. We're going to ask you to fix these 2 things. And if you fix those 2 things, we'll waive the inspection. So that takes a huge hiccup and a huge, again, dip in the roller coaster ride of the real estate transaction.
Right.
It takes it out.
Right.
So do I see that every time? No, and I do not expect it. I fully expect buyers to get their own home inspection.
Yeah.
But if they so choose that they're comfortable with using you as my pre-listing inspection and people know who you are, you're reliable, and you do a good job, and the industry knows that. That goes a long way as well, as they're like, oh, it's Horizon Point. We know them. We know Chris. We know Carl. We know, Paul. We know all of those guys, and they do a great job. We trust their inspection.
Yeah.
Now, I would rather a buyer come in and do an inspection, but if they so choose not to, that's amazing for my seller.
So let's just say a buyer comes in and says, and this is some of the argument I've heard against doing pre-listing inspections. Well, I'll do a pre-listing. Buyer comes in, they do an inspection, and they find something else. And I've always said to people, if you're hiring a reputable inspection company, they should not miss the big stuff.
Mm-hmm.
They're not going to hit every nick and cranny in the house, little scratches here, dents here. But and you and I have, and also really, you and I have dealt with this too. It depends on the inspection company that comes in and does it, right? How they communicate the findings to the new buyer. So
yeah, communicating the findings is huge, because it can be something where it's not that big of a deal. It's a big deal because we want it to get fixed, but it's like a $1,500 repair. And now an inspector came in and scared the crap out of the buyer, and the buyer now thinks it's a $10,000 repair.
Yeah.
I had $500 in repairs done to a house that I had that a buyer walked away from. They sent me the full inspection report. I spent $500. My client Venmoed me back, and $500 fixed everything on the inspection report. I do prep the sellers for that. If a buyer does have an inspection, there's always going to be little things that are missed. You're not going to see a whole bunch of big things missed. My pre-listing inspection will catch 99.9999% of the big stuff. Human error is in there. It always is. It's, and it depends on what one inspector looks at and says, oh, this is an orange item, or, keep an eye on it, versus, oh, this is maintenance, is blue, don't worry about it, or, keep monitor. So it really depends on the inspection company on who's coming in. And really, I like you guys because you educate the buyer. You're telling the buyers, or in some cases the sellers on my pre-listing, hey, found this. It's not that, here's a list of vendors that can fix it. Also talk to Andrew. He can get you in touch with some contractors that can fix this. And most houses that we're looking at they don't have major issues.
Yeah. I think the one thing that even if you're doing a pre-listing or a buyer's inspection, when you sit down and review the report with the client and you go over 20 things and you see their faces like, okay, stop. This is the point in the process where you kind of sit down with your agent, you go through everything, we'll review it with you. We have contractors, your agent has contractors. This is where you kind of just got to put the brakes on for a second, look everything over, digest it all, and then wake up tomorrow and feel better about it and hit the road and start knocking things out, right? So I
Yep.
think it's all about that communication versus like, yeah, you got 20 things in this house. It's like you gotta get all these things updated here, and then you got a nail popping your roof. That means it's gonna leak. It's like, oh, it sounds terrible. So
Yeah.
communication's huge, whether you're doing a pre-listing or a buyer's inspection. Tell me, um, one success story that you've had with doing a pre-listing inspection.
I've got a lot actually, and I mentioned the two in Westchester, one in my neighborhood. The one that I'll mention though, that I'll talk about, it's most fresh. We closed in January. My It was in my mom's neighborhood, the one on Wells Crossing that I mentioned. The gentleman got my flyer. I send out flyers to neighborhoods and mailers and things, which is kind of old school, but it's informational. It's not guacamole recipes. It's housing related, spring maintenance checklist, what sold in the neighborhood. That one's huge because everybody wants to know. Everybody's on realtor.com, homes.com, Zillow all day long, whether they're looking to buy or not. We're nosy. We are a nosy society, and now everything's right at our fingertips. So I go over he calls me on a Friday. I go over on a Sunday, meet. Pre-listed inspection was on Tuesday. Photos were on Wednesday. Inspection came back great. Not a whole lot on it, some minor things, but he was like, you know what? If a buyer wants me to fix it, I will. A whole lot of minor things. The biggest thing was he had a timeline. He had a new build that they moved up a month. He was supposed to close in February, and they were like, you're closing on January 24th. He needed the proceeds from this to buy that, so he didn't have to go through a HELOC. So we priced it a little bit aggressively. We priced it right around low to mid market value. We didn't go at the top range. They really wanted to list for 475 right before Christmas with a timeline. I was like, I would love to. However, I think we list at 450. We'll get that. We'll get there. What ended up happening is we sold it for 480. The buyer used our pre-listing inspection, asked for two things that were on it that were minor. We got my contractor out to fix it within the week, and the transaction was incredibly smooth. He closed on both houses in the same day and was able to move on without any headaches. And all of this happened in a week. I talked to him on Friday. We were pending the following Friday. Really pricing, preparedness with the pre-listing inspection, professional photos. There's a lot that goes into what we do. And again, a lot of times I'm $1,000 to $2,000 deep into a listing before we even hit the market, which is fine. But it's a little nerve wracking.
Yeah, you said there's a lot of panic there that 5 days, but the panic was not about repairs or the home inspection. The panic was about getting the timeline in place and
Yep.
making sure
Staying
things
on
were.
timeline, getting it listed when we
Yeah.
wanted to list it, getting signs in the yard, photos, flyers, brochures, everything ready. And again, back end work. My mom's amazing, gets all this stuff ready for me. Signs I got to do myself because they're pretty big and they barely fit in my car. They're definitely not going to fit in hers. But we delegate things to each other, and we were able to get that from meeting on Sunday, pre-listing inspection on Tuesday, photos on Tuesday night, Wednesday morning. I think we did Wednesday morning. And then we had the photos back Thursday morning, on the market Thursday, off the market Thursday night, pending Friday.
That's great. Yeah, I would think it's just amazing that like that happened so smoothly. And a buyer's inspection, what would happen was you would have had it listed on Friday. A buyer would have came in maybe on Sunday to look at it. Then they would have wanted an inspection, and typically we're 3 to 4 days out. So,
Hmm.
we could be like Thursday or Friday that week. And then if we got to send, if we're doing mold or other services, it might be a following Monday. And then they get the inspection report the following Monday. Then they get to send addendum repairs to you. It's 2 weeks now, maybe three.
Yep.
And you knocked out 2 weeks of probably of waiting around trying to figure things out by doing it.
Especially when we have the timeline of January 24th is the closing day that
Yeah.
we need. Otherwise, he's in trouble with buying his new house. So eliminating that 2 weeks of like, I hope nothing happens and I hope we're good, is huge. And it was a seamless-ish process. There's always appraisal in there when there's a lender involved, and you're like, oh, we went 30,000 above list price, but where we priced, I knew the 480 was going to appraise because I probably could have gone to 490, 495 and still been a little comfortable. I was comfortable at 480, but pricing it right, knowing the market and having that pre-listing inspection, it's just so huge. It takes out, and the stress for me is nothing compared to the stress the sellers are going through and the buyers are going through. So if you take that out for everybody, it makes for happy clients. And that's my goal is I want everybody to be happy.
So last question. How do you prepare your clients as sellers for a pre-listing inspection?
We really just have a conversation about what to expect, what you guys inspect, structural, plumbing, electric. We're looking for major issues. We're looking for that HVAC that is, the flames blowing out, or I don't know, that's probably not the proper term. I've seen a lot of them. I don't know, something like that. But we're not really looking for cracks in the driveway. They're going to note it, but we don't really, if you find a driveway that's not cracked, please let me know. I sold a new build this year that had cracked driveway. Guess what? Concrete settles when you put heavy stuff on soil. It settles. That's just what happens. So really educating them about that. And it's the same for buyers. As an agent, I have to educate my buyer on what to expect before the inspection. And that we're not looking for chipped paint unless it's an FHA. We're not looking for, oh, that hand railing's broken. Guess what? You screw it back into the wall.
Right.
We're looking for, oh, that looks like a foundation issue. Let's have a structural person come in and look at it. Or, hey, there's a leak under the sink that, they've got a bucket under there that's been catching water for 3 years and they've just never fixed it. Probably just needs tightened. We want that tightened. We want to make sure it's not a bigger issue. So we'll ask the seller to do that. Right. So again, little things. And then we're backpedaling and saying, once we get the inspection, we're saying, you don't have to fix things. But if I were doing this, here's what I would do. Here's what I would fix. Here's my contractor. Let's have him come in and take a look at it and give us he'll price it out for each item. He'll itemize it. Yeah. So if something is like, maybe borderline, we do it, we don't do it, and it's $50, maybe you just do it.
Yeah. I think you're protecting, your clients with a pre-listing, because homeowners don't all know about their homes. And when you fill out that disclosure, they're filling out knowing maybe they've never been in their attic. They never looked at their water supply line. Is it Blue Max? Do they have a Federal Pacific? Do they have a leak somewhere they never found before, but an inspector would find? So they sign non-disclosure, and they're still putting themselves out there. And with the way the industry is right now with waiving inspections, a buyer comes in, waives inspections, and then moves in and finds something, they're going right for that seller. So you take the liability off of your clients by having us come in, do a pre-listing, and maybe like protect your sellers from a major headache after they move out.
Yeah. Well, and just an example, I have some clients that do this, and I just did this on my house. I just had you guys come in and do an inspection. So I know, I've got a checklist of things that I'm on my contractor just touch up. I knew I needed the caulk around the windows. I haven't done it since I moved in 8 years ago. But I also forgot that when we bought the house in 2016, so 9 years ago, there was mold in the attic and we had it remediated. I completely forgot that we had that. So if I'm going to sell my house and I forgot to list that, an inspector now comes in and says, signs of mold remediation is, I think, what it said, or signs of mold, whatever Paul wrote. But like, I was like, oh shit, I completely forgot.
Well, I think this has been great because one, you've been able to kind of express your model and how you do things, and this can maybe help agents that are maybe on the fence about doing pre-listing inspections. I think it just really it says a lot the value of doing them. I think there's a lot more value than there is not value to doing them. So I thank you so much just sharing your experiences with everything. But go ahead and kind of tell clients and other agents again, your name, phone number, how they can get a hold of you if they want to talk to you about this whole pre-listing inspection, or maybe even a seller's like, wow, I want to do this. How can they get a hold of you?
Yeah, for sure. And I am very open and very transparent with other agents. I share probably way too much information. And I'm happy to do that. I think that's the only way we move forward and keep the industry professional, is sharing what's successful for us and how I make my clients happy and how you can make your. So I overshare a ton of stuff. But agents, clients, anybody, questions, whatever, my phone number is 513-835-5506. And my email is theherseygroup@gmail.com. Website's herseygroup.com. And then you should plug yourself too. I know you will, but you guys do a fantastic job. Again, my contractors get 1 strike. You guys in 10 years have 0 strikes with me. There's been no issues with anything. So, how do we get a hold of you, Chris?
Yeah, you can call our office at 513-831-1200. Schedule online is the easiest way to schedule. It's at inspecthorizon.com. Morgan will be happy to get you scheduled.